My name is Canon Coker. I'm a systems narrative and level designer at DigiPen Institute of Technology, and I specialize in environmental storytelling and narrative through gameplay mechanics and gameplay systems. Today I'm going to be talking about Bloodborne. Bloodborne's a game I've gone on quite the trip with since I was first introduced to it. I think like many people in this room and many people who have become fans of Miyazaki's games, there was a hard learning curve to it, and I was very pushed away from the start. I dropped Bloodborne 3 or 4 times once I started playing it, and I could not make myself like it. I genuinely hated everything about it and was appalled by all of it. Um, but I was infatuated by why it was held in such high regard and why everything about it, no matter how much I disliked it, kept drawing me back into it. I couldn't put it down permanently. I always kept being crawled back in, and there was this morbid curiosity for what lied deeper within. And as I kept playing and forcing myself to keep going, what I found is that Bloodborne is an exploration of a voluntary descent into madness. And that is true not just of the events of the game and the characters in the game, but so true of the player as well and the journey you go on with it. Um, because Bloodborne's voluntary descent into madness, it's bigger than just a story the game tells. It's a thesis statement that powers every facet of the game's design. It's bigger than just the narrative design. It is all of the game's design, and it's so much stronger for that. There's not a piece of Bloodborne that isn't built to reflect, or isn't built not to reflect that theme. And across its level design, systems design, UI design, everything, it does that, and it's so brilliant because of that. Environmental storytelling is the first thing that sets that up. You walk through these streets of Yharnam, and you hear the audio design and the cries and the screams of these beasts, and you don't know what it is, and you can't put an emotion to it. It's bizarre. It's like there's no cutscene, there's no character explaining these things to it. You're just experiencing it. And I think that's wonderful because we're playing in an interactive medium, aren't we? Bloodborne chooses to use its level design to tell that story without breaking for a cutscene or anything more. The same sort of idea leads into its characters and overall direction of the way the characters and other facets of the game are portrayed. Everything's non-linear, and that's fitting because it's a voluntary descent into madness. It's not something you can look at and read it like a script. You have to delve deeper. You have to analyze. And when you put the pieces together, you go insane trying to figure it out because there's no end to it. The depth is continuous, just as continuous as the randomly generated dungeons that come alongside the game. The gameplay systems encourage you to embrace your fear. They encourage you to embrace death in scenarios that you are not going to win. And even once you do, it only gets harder, and it continuously does so. But you keep going because you want to see what lies ahead, and you want to embrace that voluntary descent into madness. At the core of all of this, I think the brilliance of Miyazaki's design with this is that it is voluntary. At no point in the game does it ever tell you to do these things. And in fact, in the DLC, you're told not to do these things, and yet you still do. It's one of the brilliant things of our medium that we're able to tell somebody to do something without telling them to do something. And Miyazaki understands that, and he runs so far with it in this game. At the end of the day, I think building a game around a thesis is the best thing you possibly can do. If you have a core idea powering your experience, and you let that drive into every facet of every part of it, you're making something that feels cohesive and that has something ultimately to say across all of it. It has an idea that bleeds into all of it, and it has an identity that sticks with it. Bloodborne's bizarre because it's oppressive and it's difficult to get into, but once you do, it's beautiful, and you can't get away from it. But that's only accomplished because of its commitment to those themes and running as far as it does with those themes. And it's not just about having a theme to a story, it's about having a theme to an interactive experience. Because at the end of the day, Bloodborne is not a story I was shown. and it's not a story I was told. Bloodborne was an experience, and that's a kind of story that only video games can tell. Thank you so much.